Hello everyone, Wolfie of Mistforge here, and in this video I'm going to talk about better strategies for defending wounds when the enemy guardian rampages. Most would assume that the best thing to do would be to kill the enemies before they get the wound, and though that is correct, there are a few extra things you need to keep in mind while doing so. Before I get into it, let me explain exactly how a rampage works. At the top of your screen, you will see the power bars for your guardian and the enemy guardian. This will fill up as your team kills enemy players and creatures and when your team collects power orbs from control points. The first team to reach 100 power will begin a rampage, where the guardian travels across the map to pin the other guardian down and make it vulnerable to damage. Once a rampage is over, all power is drained to zero and a new power race begins. If your team does not gain 100 power before the enemy team, you will have to defend your guardian so that it doesn't get wounded. What I've seen from most often from new players is that they'll immediately fall back to the guardian before it's even become vulnerable. Though this does quicken your ability to set up and defend, the more optimal thing to do would be to continue the aggression. Here's why. Firstly, you can still gain power by getting kills. Whatever power you had before the rampage gets converted into a shield, which can dramatically reduce the amount of impact damage your guardian will take and can often prevent the enemy guardian from wounding yours automatically. Second of all, staying on the offensive keeps the enemies in combat and in your line of sight. This means that they won't be able to sneak around another path and they won't be able to regenerate any health. This can discourage them from going for the wound at all and puts your team in an immediate advantage for gaining early power in the next race. If you can keep the enemy pinned down at a certain position, then it completely negates the need to go back and defend because no one will be there. This tactic is also good practice for getting objectives for the times when the rampage will be an auto wound no matter what, since the guardians can deal enough damage even if you do have an 100 power shield. In the situation that the enemy team does split off and go for the wound, someone on your team should already be able to respond quickly before they can do any real damage because you can already see which way they're going. If you can't, then that probably means that you don't have a Cerberus somewhere, in which case shame on you. There will always be the times where the enemy team does go to finish the wound, especially if that wound will win them the game. To maximize your ability to defend, your team needs to prioritize certain heroes over others. The most common first attackers are the enemy assassins. The reason for this is because they want to take a couple hits and then run so that players are urged to chase them for the kill. Think of it like a taunt. Good assassin players know that they don't deal a ton of damage to wounds, so they take what damage they can afford to take and then avoid the rest so that the regeneration kicks in and then go for another hit. The best thing to do for assassins is to deal enough damage to push them away and then ignore them, unless you have a surefire way of killing them instantly such as a Nasus or Zenobia launch or a Margrave stun. You'll then want to go for their ranged damage dealers. The heroes that statistically do the most damage to guardians in order are HK, Beckett, Amani, and Charnok. If any of these four heroes are on the enemy team, then they should be your first target. The possible exception to this is Beckett because her jetpack makes her extremely difficult to hit consistently. Ranged heroes and anyone with a beam attack should continue to try to hit her, while melee can go for other ranged heroes and force them away such as Mozu or Voden. And make sure that someone on your team saves a hard crowd control ability to disrupt big focuses such as HK's Swarm, Amani's Killshot, or Mozu's Death Ray. Once range is killed, your next target should be another hard hitter. Nasus, Trip, Voden, and Griselma are good examples as their damage will stack up rapidly if left alone. Trip and Nasus aren't too difficult as they are melee and can be forced away with some cleave and area of effect damage, and killing Griselma's hands cuts off her damage by roughly 80%. Voden is more difficult just because of his clone and his jump pad, but he does have relatively low health and staying in his face can mess up his shots. Your last kill priority should be anyone with relatively low damage per second output. Margrave, Paco, Zandora, and Wu, as well as most support heroes fall into this category. Most of their attacks are very slow and don't do a lot of damage, and beam heroes like Zenobia have a difficult time targeting the wound if your team stands in front of it. The only support heroes who would give you any issues are Sven and Vadasi. Sven actually does have some solid damage output and his focus is top tier for countering any and all defenses, not to mention that his elastic ooze makes him very mobile like Voden. I would personally say to try and kill Sven before the frontline so that he's forced to use his burst heal on himself. Vadasi doesn't have too much damage, but the problem with her lies in her incredible healing potential. She can keep the enemy ranged alive for a pretty long time even through poison, so do what you can to push her away first. If you do want my full opinion on my exact target priority when it comes to defending wounds, I did make an article on the Mistforge site about it. If you're interested, the link is in the description. But that'll be the end of this video. I hope that this video makes it easier for you to defend your guardian from losing health. Go and give it a try for yourself, and if it works, come back and give this video a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and we'll see you on the airship.